by herself, cold, man. Who fucking daughter is this, bro? Thank God I seen her. Herself, how old is you? 6? Man. That ain't crazy, bro. Daughter is this, bro. I need y'all motherfucking ass beat, I tell you that. Whoever daughter this is, y'all let y'all daughter walk. Out here with no fucking hat, no shoes. Thank God I fucking saved her. Those sick ass people out here, thank God I seen this little girl, bro. And this shit got me so mad and angry. This shit got me so mad and angry, bro. Nigga got this little precious little girl just out here walking by her fucking self, bro. I ain't want to put her in my truck, bro. So I got out and walked with her, made sure she got to where the fuck she going. Bro, motherfuckers got this little girl out here just walking, bro.
So of course I thought about reporting this. So the little girl, the 6-year-old that was found yesterday walking by herself, this the mother. And the only reason I posted this video is because, like, if this is a guy, we would be holding him accountable. But by it being a female, like, even me, like, I didn't even want to really do it because I was trying to figure out what was the situation, like, what could be the reason. But then I went on her page and I started seeing that she was just living life, saying, what you doing, like, talking about the turn up, like, and it just got me so disgusted. And they got to me thinking about my own situation. Like, y'all females really feel like y'all could just do whatever y'all want and just keep living life. Like, y'all, why do y'all have kids if y'all don't give a fuck about them, bro? Like, anything could have happened to that little girl. Like, this shit is sad as hell, bro. And I just thank God for not letting my kids be in this situation. And I pray to God that it never happens, because this shit is just crazy, bro, and just sick and just foul. Like,
all right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the earth is a great millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today, I'm just going to do a quick video on, an incident that took place out here in Detroit, and I'm not sure if it was today, earlier today or, yesterday, but, it's a video of a young girl, she was 6 years old, walking to school, by herself, and then, some Jake, a man just happened to see her, and walk with her and make sure, she was safe, and then you see, another Jake, respond, to that video, and he ended up finding, the woman's Instagram page, and this just goes to show you how cruel the so-called black woman is toward her children, because the so-called black man, which is the tribe of Judah, the men and the women, the tribe of Judah, so-called Negroes, they already have a bad rep. The men in particular already have a bad rep of, being deadbeats, having, getting different women pregnant and not being there for them. But what about the women? So-called black women can be deadbeats too, or not just, black women, but women in general, because any man can be a deadbeat father, but women can also be deadbeat mothers. And this is just one of the many instances, because there's plenty of examples just out here in Michigan alone where you have so-called black women, treating their children, just wrong, and this is just one of those cases, because ultimately it's the curses, man, because at the end of the day, the Israelite woman, in particular, the so-called black woman, she only gives a damn about herself, and it's not all, so-called black women, because again, you do have, the sisters out there, that do care, not only about their children, but their husbands, if they have them, they're not like the rest of the 2/3 women out here that are going to be judged, but this is just one of those instances of why we need the Lord, man, why we need deliverance out of this place, because it's only going to get worse. So I'm just going to bring out a couple of scriptures. I'm just going to bring out a couple of scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And I'm going to start with the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 20. Slakia. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 56. And it says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which will not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness. For her eye shall be evil toward her. Slakia. For her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. And right, it says the tender and delicate woman, because the Israelite woman used to be, just like it says, so tender and delicate that, they wouldn't walk upon the ground, they would be carried, because they were very feminine, unlike today, these women nowadays, they're very masculine, they'll walk upon the ground, they'll even walk barefoot, some of them, will fight men, it's just, they're not tender and delicate how they used to be, they're not feminine anymore. Again, and it's not all of them, but the majority of them, yeah, this applies to them, and just like it says, her eye is going to be evil toward her husband, so it's already evident. It's been shown time and time and time again that the majority of so-called black women out here hate black men. They do. Even if you didn't do anything wrong to them personally, they hate us. And as part of the curses, So her eye is evil toward her husband, and just like it says, her eye should be evil toward her son. So again, you may have women out here that, may have taken, their child away from their father, and they'll take the anger out on their sons. Oh, you look just like your father, or you act just like, him, and this and that. They'll belittle him, do these different things, to him, and effeminize him, and then he'll end up growing up weak, or over emotional, just like she is, right? So her eye will be evil toward her son. And then the main point that I want to make in this verse is that her eye should be evil toward her daughter, because again, there's no way that a 6-year-old girl should be walking into school in the wintertime of all times anyway by herself, because again, just like that Jake said, man, anything could have happened to her. We already know what goes on here in America. There's a lot of child trafficking that goes on. So she could have been snatched up, and never heard from or seen again. We know there's a lot of, SRA, satanic ritual abuse that goes on that involves children. And we know that there's a lot of black, so-called black, which were not black, but a lot of so-called Negro children, in particular girls, and young women that come up missing every year, But this woman just clearly shows she doesn't give a damn about her daughter. She's too busy, posting on Instagram, trying to turn up and doing everything except what she's supposed to be doing, which is doing what? Being a mother, So I'm going to read verse 57. It says, and toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet, and toward her children which she shall bear, and Slakia, for she shall eat them for one of all things secretly in the siege, and straightness wherewith thine enemies shall distress thee in thy gates. And right, just like it says, her eye is going to be evil toward her children. And this is just, again, one of many examples, because again, that's cruel, man. Because I'm pretty sure that woman has a vehicle. And if not, you know someone that has a vehicle that could, hey, can you give me a ride, so I can drop my daughter off at school, And then he said she didn't have on shoes either. Like, come on, man. You just sent her outside, where literally anything could have happened to her. A lot of you Negro women are deadbeats. Y'all love to slander, the men of your own nation, saying this and that, but, look at yourselves. It's evident, and this is how you know that so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the biblical Israelites, man, because of the curses that are written in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And that's one thing people love to make fun of, is the fact that we go to this chapter to prove that we are the people, and we are. It's inevitable, man. The proof is irrefutable. You can't deny it, because we're the only nation of people that are suffering from the things written in this book, So you can say whatever they want. And then just like it says in the latter part of this verse, which it was referring to 70 AD, says, she shall eat her children, in the siege, because again, we know the siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD, where our people that didn't flee, from Jerusalem, they were trapped. The Romans came and surrounded the city, nothing can get in and nothing can get out, so a lot of our people were starved out, and resorted to cannibalism. And that's going to take place again, where a lot of women are going to resort to cannibalism. They're going to eat their own children, as crazy as it sounds, but it's true, because if it wasn't true, then it wouldn't be written, But that woman, she is cruel, man. She is cruel. So let's get that in the book of Lamentations, chapter 4 and verse 3. And it says, even the sea monsters draw out the breasts. They give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness. And right, man, because what does the ostrich do? She'll bury her eggs, forget where she buried them, and ended up, stomping on them because she forgot where she buried her eggs, man. She was careless. And this is an animal, that'll do this. But again, since the daughter of my people was referring to who? The Israelite women in general, but in particular, the Judite woman, the so-called black woman. You're cruel, man. Toward your own children, we know. You hate your own man, but again, you hate your children too. And this is evidence right here, man. The evidence is all stacked against you. This is why the Lord is going to judge you for all of the wickedness that you have done, man, and have not repented from. So I'm going to jump to the book of Job, chapter 39, and verse 13, just to back up that verse, right? It says, gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacocks, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich, which leaveth her eggs in the earth, and warmeth them in the dust, and forgetteth that her foot may crush them, or that the wild beasts may break them. She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain without fear, because Yahweh hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. And right, man, it just gave you the characteristics of what a female ostrich will do. She'll lay her eggs, cover them, in the earth, so they can stay warm. But what, she'll end up forgetting where she buried them and end up stomping on the very spot she buried, her eggs, man. Or if that doesn't happen again, just like it says, different animals, may find them, dig them up and eat them, But what it says, that our labor is in vain. And a lot of you so-called black women's labor was in vain. You brought forth seed. You brought forth a man's seed, their children, because that's what the act of sex is for. Procreation, to bring forth life, man. And that's even in our law, to be fruitful and multiply. Obviously, in this current time we're in, it's really not the time to, be fruitful, and multiplying, because we know that we're about to enter into some very serious times. But, that's a part of our law, to be fruitful and multiply, to bring forth more Israelite children, But again, you don't care. You don't care about your man. You don't care about your children. You only care about yourself. And that woman only gave a damn about herself. So there's no telling how, that young girl is also being treated, man. In a sense, the Lord has deprived, the Lord has deprived you women of wisdom. Because if you had wisdom, then common sense will tell you, if you don't have a ride, contact someone. Where is her father? If he's not, incarcerated, locked up, it's a possibility, even if, her father is active in her life, he may have been at work, anything, but where is her father is the question. If he is in her life, if he is an active father, cool, it's understandable. He may be, handling his business, but if he's not, then, that's on both parents, man, because one, he's allowing his daughter to just be out here. If, again, he's not active in his child's life, but if he is, again, this just goes to show you that, you Negro women, man, you hate your own husbands, and you hate your children too. But I say all that to say that, man, this is all gonna come to an end, man, because it is, even though we know that this woman, she is gonna be judged for what she did. Now, if it's slocky, man, just kind of, I'm not gonna say lost for words, but man, it is kind of a sad situation. That again, this is what a lot of Israelite children have to deal with, man. Now that could be, this little girl's judgment. There's no telling what she did in her past life to receive, a mother like that. But if, she is of the elect, then, she is going to be fine. She's going to be saved, in due time. But still, man, it's just still a heartbreaking thing to see. And I feel that Jake's pain, man, because you can clearly see, he's so upset. He's crying, man. Because why you just, allowing your daughter to just be out here like this, So again, that's just one of many examples how you know that we are the biblical Israelites, man. Because look at how the Israelite woman treats her children. She is cruel towards them. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I like to give double honors unto the apostles and the orders of great millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say Shalom.